Something happened at Dunsfold Runway that has split the automotive community right down the middle, and the debate is only getting louder. Matt Armstrong drove his Bugatti Veyron 150 miles to that runway to attempt a top-speed run. The car performed flawlessly the entire way. No warning lights, no fault codes, no drama whatsoever. He arrived, waited for the track surface to dry, climbed back in, checked the dashboard, completely clean. He inserted the duplicate speed key, activated top speed mode, and got the green light from the system. He was ready to go. His first pass down the runway was a shakedown run, just checking temperatures, braking points, making sure everything felt right. And it did. Everything was normal. He turned around, lined up for the real attempt, and the car died. Completely. The fuel pump control module lost signal. No communication, no warning, just silence. Think about that sequence for a moment. Not during 150 miles of motorway driving. Not during setup. Not during the shakedown pass. The car chose the exact moment Matt lined up for his real speed run to shut down entirely. If you put that into a screenplay, the editor would probably send it back and ask you to make it more believable. So the question everyone is asking is obvious. Was this a coincidence, or did Bugatti have something to do with it? The people who believe Bugatti was involved aren't simply reaching for a conspiracy theory. They're pointing at something real. Modern vehicles are deeply connected to their manufacturers in ways most drivers don't fully appreciate. Telematics systems, GPS tracking, remote diagnostics, real-time performance data, over-the-air software updates. These are standard features in high-end cars today. Manufacturers don't just build your car and wave goodbye. In many cases, they maintain an ongoing digital relationship with it long after it leaves the factory. The theory goes like this. Bugatti's systems detected a Veyron on an airfield runway. They detected that top speed mode had been activated. They cross-referenced the VIN, identified the car, and remotely cut communication to the fuel pump control module before the run could happen. And what makes this theory difficult to simply dismiss is the one detail that keeps coming back. There were no warning signs beforehand. When a fuel pump control module is genuinely failing, mechanically, organically, because of age and wear, you typically get some indication. Intermittent faults, rough running, degraded performance, a warning light. Something. The car gives you a clue. But in this case, the dashboard was completely clean right up until the moment the attempt was about to begin. To some people, that doesn't sound like a component dying. It sounds like communication being cut. If you accept that premise, the timing suddenly makes perfect sense. The absence of prior fault codes isn't a mystery. It's evidence. The shutdown wasn't gradual because it wasn't a failure. It was deliberate. There's also a broader pattern that people point to when making this argument. Bugatti has long had a reputation for wanting to remain involved in their cars well after the point of sale. They've faced criticism for restricting parts availability, insisting on factory-authorized servicing, and making it extremely difficult for independent mechanics to work on their vehicles. The idea that Bugatti might intervene to stop an unsanctioned top-speed attempt, carried out with a duplicate key, by someone outside their official network, is seen by some as entirely consistent with how the company operates. Now here's where we have to be honest about the facts, because the counter-argument is genuinely strong. Matt's Veyron is a 2006 car. That's not a small detail. It's the central issue with this entire theory. The connected car era we live in now was barely beginning in 2006. Tesla didn't introduce over-the-air software updates until years later. The sophisticated telematics systems we take for granted in modern vehicles became widespread only as mobile connectivity matured through the 2010s. The Bugatti Veyron was an engineering marvel for its time, but it was not designed around permanent internet connectivity. For Bugatti to remotely disable this specific car, three things would need to be true simultaneously. First, the car would need hardware capable of receiving and executing remote commands, either installed at the factory in 2006 or added at some point afterward. Second, there would need to be an active, live communication link between that hardware and Bugatti systems. Third, Bugatti would need to be able to send targeted commands into a 20-year-old vehicle architecture and have them execute reliably. That's a difficult technical case to construct. And it gets harder when you look at the history of this particular car. It had spent long periods sitting unused. At some point, the TCU, the telematics control unit, had reportedly been unplugged and was found lying in the footwell. The previous owner had no ongoing relationship with Bugatti. This wasn't a car being actively monitored. In all likelihood, whatever connection it may once have had to the manufacturer had been severed long ago, either through neglect, disrepair, or simply the passage of time. Modern Bugatti Chirons do have advanced telematics. They transmit vehicle health data, track performance metrics, and maintain a live channel back to the manufacturer. But the Chiron launched a decade after the Veyron. It represents a completely different generation of vehicle architecture. You cannot assume that what's true for a 2024 Chiron was also true for a 2006 Veyron. The technology simply wasn't there in the same way. And then there's the straightforward mechanical explanation, which deserves more credit than it sometimes gets in these discussions. The Veyron is a 20-year-old hypercar with a quad-turbocharged W16 engine that operates at extraordinary thermal and mechanical stress levels. Matt drove it 150 miles to the runway. Then he did a shakedown pass. By that point, the car had been working hard for hours. Heat cycles accumulate, stress compounds. A fuel pump control module that was already weakened, perhaps not enough to trigger a fault code under normal conditions, but weakened nonetheless, could plausibly reach its breaking point at exactly that moment. Suspicious looking, absolutely. But mechanically, it's not impossible. Sometimes components fail at the worst possible moment. It doesn't mean someone pulled a switch. But even if you land firmly on the mechanical failure side of this debate, there's a question underneath this story that doesn't go away so easily. Who actually controls your car after you buy it? Because regardless of what happened to Matt's Veyron on that runway, the broader capability being discussed here is very real. Modern manufacturers can monitor vehicles remotely. They can push software updates that alter how a car behaves. They can, in some documented cases, remotely restrict or disable features. This isn't speculation, it's how connected vehicles work. The technology exists, the infrastructure exists, and in most cases, the legal framework buried in the ownership agreements and software licenses gives manufacturers significant latitude to use it. Most of the time, this is presented as a benefit. Remote diagnostics mean your car can flag a problem before it becomes serious. Over-the-air updates mean you can receive improvements without going to a dealer. Real-time monitoring means emergency services can locate you after a crash. These are genuinely useful things. But there's a flip side. If a manufacturer can push an update that improves your car's performance, they can also push one that limits it. If they can remotely diagnose a fault, they can theoretically create one. The same tools that make modern cars smarter also mean that the relationship between owner and vehicle is no longer as straightforward as it once was. You own the hardware, but the software and the control it represents may be a different matter entirely. For enthusiasts like Matt, people who buy older, complex, sometimes troubled cars specifically because they want to work on them, push them, understand them, this sits uncomfortably. The Veyron was never designed to be owned and operated independently. Bugatti's entire ownership model assumes dealer involvement at almost every level. Matt buying a broken Veyron and fixing it himself, then driving it to a runway to see what it can do, represents exactly the kind of autonomous ownership that high-end manufacturers have historically resisted. Whether or not Bugatti intervened on that runway, the unease that this story taps into is legitimate. It's the feeling that the car on your driveway might not be entirely yours in the way a car once was. The truth of what happened at Dunsfold hasn't been established. It may never be. The most likely explanation remains a mechanical failure that occurred at an extraordinarily bad moment. The technical barriers to a remote shutdown of a 2006 Veyron are significant, and there's no direct evidence that Bugatti has that capability for a car of that age, let alone that they used it. But the timing is what keeps this story alive. 150 miles of faultless driving, a clean dashboard, a successful shakedown run. And then, at the precise moment the real attempt began, nothing. Coincidences do happen. They just rarely look quite this neat.